Welcome to the stories on Echoes of Revenge. Step into a world where love turns dangerous, revenge feels inevitable, and every story drags you deeper into the shadows of desire, betrayal, and the human heart. Let's begin today's story.
She'll never understand where the money went, my brother Kyle laughed into his phone, unaware I was standing in his kitchen doorway. Just basic math. Route it through the LLCs, convert to crypto, she'll think it's a bank error. He was talking about my daughter's surgery fund. $87,000. Saved over 4 years for Emma's spinal surgery. Money he'd just stolen using fraudulent wire transfers from the joint account he'd convinced me to add him to for emergencies. My sister's not exactly financially sophisticated, Kyle continued. She's a bank teller or something. Counts money all day but doesn't understand how it actually moves. I stepped into the kitchen. Kyle spun around, phone still at his ear. I need to call you back, he said quickly, ending the call. Bank teller. I said quietly. Is that what you think I do? Kyle's face cycled through emotions. Surprise, embarrassment, defiance. He settled on dismissive. Branch manager, whatever. Same thing. Senior forensic banking analyst, FinCEN. Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. I trace wire fraud and money laundering for the federal government. The color drained from his face. And I just watched you route $87,000 from my daughter's medical fund through 3 shell companies and a cryptocurrency exchange. On a call you thought I couldn't understand. I pulled out my phone. But the SAR system already flagged it. Suspicious activity report filed automatically when you triggered the structured transaction protocols. Kyle's phone slipped from his hand, clattering on the tile floor. The federal investigation started 20 minutes ago, I continued. Before you even finished laundering my daughter's surgery money. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask, have you ever realized someone underestimated you at exactly the wrong moment? Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Let me tell you how Kyle became an authorized user. When Emma was diagnosed with scoliosis 3 years ago, the surgery estimate was $92,000 after insurance. I opened a dedicated savings account. Added $500 monthly. Every overtime shift, every tax refund, every birthday gift went into that account. Last year, Kyle asked to be added as an authorized user. Just in case something happens to you during Emma's surgery. Someone should be able to access the funds for her care. It made sense. Single mother, major surgery, emergency backup. I added him with view-only access, or so I thought. The bank processed him with full withdrawal authority. My mistake. His opportunity. Over 4 years, here's what went into that account. Monthly contributions, $24,000. Overtime and bonuses, $31,000. Tax refunds, $18,000. Family contributions, $14,000. Total, $87,000. Every dollar documented for one purpose. Emma's surgery scheduled for next month. This morning at 6:47 a.m., Kyle initiated a wire transfer for the full amount to KMC Holdings LLC, a shell company he'd created last week. By 8:15 a.m. he'd subdivided it. $30,000 to cryptocurrency exchange. $25,000 to second shell company. $20,000 to offshore account. $12,000 remaining in KMC Holdings. Classic layering technique. Structured to obscure the trail. Executed with confidence that I wouldn't understand it. But I'd been tracing these exact patterns for 7 years at FinCEN. Kyle tried to recover. Look, it's temporary. Investment opportunity. Stop. I held up my hand. 18 U.S.C. 1343. Wire fraud across state lines. 18 U.S.C. 1957. Monetary transactions involving criminally derived property. 31 U.S.C. 5324. Structuring to evade reporting requirements. You want me to continue? You're overreacting. It's family money. It's my daughter's medical fund. You accessed it without authorization, created shell companies to receive it, and laundered it through multiple accounts to hide the theft. Those are federal crimes regardless of relationship. Kyle's jaw clenched. You'd really send your own brother to prison? You'd really steal your niece's surgery money? I countered. Emma's surgery is in 4 weeks. That money isn't for investments. It's for titanium rods in a 12-year-old's spine. I was going to pay it back. Through an offshore account in cryptocurrency? That's not a repayment plan. That's money laundering. I showed him my phone screen. The suspicious activity report already filed. SAR 2024-94847. Once the system flags structured transactions, I can't stop the investigation even if I wanted to. You filed a SAR on me? The system filed it automatically when you structured the withdrawals. I just happened to see the alert because I monitor these systems for work. Then I pulled the full transaction history and realized the victim was me. Kyle sat down heavily. What happens now? FBI agents are en route. They'll execute search warrants for your devices, your shell company records, your cryptocurrency accounts. The U.S. attorney will file federal charges. You'll be arrested, processed, and held pending arraignment. For borrowing money? For wire fraud, money laundering, and structuring. Maximum combined sentence: 45 years federal prison. The FBI arrived within 2 hours. Special Agent Torres and 3 other agents with search warrants for Kyle's home, computers, and phone records. I'd already provided FinCEN with the complete transaction trail, the shell company documentation, the cryptocurrency exchange confirmations. Ms. Morgan. Agent Torres approached me in Kyle's driveway. You're the FinCEN analyst who flagged this? The SAR system flagged it automatically. I'm also the victim. He stole my daughter's medical fund. Torres reviewed his notes. That's an unusual situation. You'll need to recuse from the forensic analysis, but your initial documentation is solid. The evidence is clear. They took Kyle into custody at 3:47 p.m. Read him his rights. Seized his laptop, phone, and file boxes of financial records. My parents arrived as they were loading Kyle into the federal vehicle. Mom saw me standing with the agents and understood immediately. Rachel, what did you do? Kyle stole Emma's surgery money. I reported it to federal authorities. He's your brother. He stole from my daughter. She needs surgery in 4 weeks. Dad stepped forward. We'll get lawyers. We'll fix this. Family doesn't press charges against family. I didn't press charges. The federal government did automatically when Kyle's structured transactions triggered mandatory reporting protocols. This isn't a family issue anymore. It's a federal wire fraud case. Mom started crying. How could you be so cold? How could he steal from a child's medical fund? I replied. Emma needs spinal surgery. Kyle needed cryptocurrency investments. Those aren't equivalent. The prosecution was swift and merciless. The evidence was digital, comprehensive, and irrefutable. Every wire transfer. Every shell company formation. Every cryptocurrency conversion. The recorded phone call where Kyle admitted to routing money through entities specifically to hide it from me. Kyle's attorney tried to negotiate. Suggested restitution instead of prosecution. Argued it was a family misunderstanding. The AUSA, Assistant U.S. Attorney, rejected everything. Your client created 3 shell companies, initiated unauthorized wire transfers, and laundered funds through cryptocurrency and offshore accounts. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was systematic financial fraud. She presented the evidence methodically. The wire transfers at 6:47 a.m. The shell company formations dated 1 week prior, proving premeditation. The structured transaction amounts, each under $10,000, demonstrating intent to evade reporting. And we have his own words. The ASA continued playing the recording. Kyle's voice. She'll never understand where the money went. Just basic math. The courtroom was silent. The victim is a 12-year-old child facing major surgery, the AUSA concluded. The defendant is her uncle who exploited family trust to steal her medical fund. This warrants the full extent of federal penalties. Kyle pled guilty. No trial. The evidence was too strong. Sentencing: 5 years federal prison, $87,000 restitution, 3 years supervised release, permanent felony record. The judge's words. Mr. Morgan, you stole from a child's medical fund. You used sophisticated financial techniques suggesting this wasn't impulsive but calculated. You assumed your sister wouldn't understand your methods because you underestimated her professional expertise. That arrogance doesn't mitigate your crimes, it demonstrates their severity. 6 months later, Emma had her surgery. I'd rebuilt the fund through emergency fundraising, medical payment plans, and a loan from my 401k. The surgery was successful. She's in recovery now, wearing a brace, doing physical therapy, making progress. The $87,000 restitution? Kyle pays $50 monthly from his prison job. At that rate, full repayment takes 145 years. My parents haven't forgiven me. They believe I should have handled it within the family. They don't understand that once the SAR system flagged the transactions, I had no choice. Federal law required investigation regardless of relationship. Kyle writes occasional letters from prison. Mostly angry. Sometimes confused. Never apologetic. He still believes he was borrowing and I overreacted. He doesn't understand that calling federal wire fraud borrowing doesn't change the legal classification. That thinking I'm just a bank teller doesn't erase my FinCEN credentials. That underestimating someone at the exact moment you're committing crimes against them is catastrophically poor judgment. What I learned: expertise matters most when people assume you don't have it. Family trust is a vulnerability some people exploit. And federal banking systems don't care about relationships, only about structured transactions that trigger mandatory reporting. My brother thought I counted money all day and couldn't understand where it went. My federal forensic access revealed every fraudulent transfer, every shell company, every laundering technique. His laughter became sentencing evidence. The SAR system started blinking the moment he initiated the fraud. By the time he finished his phone call bragging about it, the federal investigation was already underway. Sometimes the bank teller is actually a federal forensic analyst. Sometimes basic math is actually money laundering. Sometimes the person you underestimate is the person who documents your crimes in real time. Kyle's wire fraud met my federal banking credentials. The SAR system did the rest. Emma's getting better. The titanium rods are holding. She'll walk without pain. Kyle's learning that basic math includes calculating federal sentencing guidelines. That family relationship doesn't exempt you from wire fraud statutes. That the sister he dismissed as financially unsophisticated was actually the person who tracked his every criminal transaction. The trash took itself to federal prison. I just filed the suspicious activity report correctly.